There are approximately over 5 million video games in existence. That's a lot of video games, more than anyone could ever play in their lifetime, although I'm sure there's some neckbeard in a basement somewhere who's played a good majority of them. Each of those games fits into a specific category. That category could be anything from the universal genre to a series of games under one name. I find all of these different categories to be the most interesting part of video games. There are the big, well-known ones, and then there are some incredibly niche categories that relatively few people play. Within these categories, there exist far more additional categories that all fit together into one game. This is how you get games that are tagged as horror, action, survival, visual novels. With all of these categories, it's hard to really choose a favorite. While I definitely have some that I prefer, I've played so many of them that I can't really nail down a favorite. So what I've gone and done is chosen a handful of my preferred categories to show you. Some are genres, while others are styles. This series will be all about looking at those categories and games that fit within them, starting with one of the most expansive genres out there, adventure games. Adventure is one of those genres that nearly every game ever fits into. Any game that has a definitive start and end is essentially an adventure game. That is why I love it so much. It leaves a lot of room for variety. As such, many of the games I will talk about in other videos will also fit this category. Adventure games use subgenres to make themselves stand out in the wider gaming world. It's always action-adventure, fantasy RPG, or open-world survival. It's never just adventure. This is another part of adventure games that makes the whole category so great. One of my more preferred subgenres in the adventure category is action-adventure. These games are a hybrid of both the core adventure and core action genres. Of these games, my favorites are the ones that really go all in on the action side of things while allowing the action to guide you down the adventure side. What I mean by this are games that set up their adventure, whoever it is that you're playing, and whatever it is that you're doing. Then they get thrust into this crazy scenario where bullets are flying, things are exploding, and adrenaline is pumping. And when it's all over, you end up right where you need to be. Your mind is focused on all of the action while you somewhat unintentionally move forward on your adventure. One of my favorite games that does this is Tomb Raider 2013. The Tomb Raider series has always been known as one of the definitive action-adventure games out there, so it is expected that this new take on the legendary archaeologist Lara Croft would be everything the series had shown and more, and that is exactly what it was. This variant of the character being rougher and tougher than the rest, or so to speak. Tomb Raider 2013 goes all in on the action side of things. Each segment of the game hits harder than the last and leaves you wondering what is next. Yet, when next comes, it is almost never exactly what you were guessing it was. There are so many options at your disposal to take on the action. I was discovering new methods to use in combat at the end of the game. Tomb Raider goes all in on the action, so what about the adventure? Tomb Raider's take on Lara Croft is one of the more interesting ones I've seen personally, although that doesn't mean much since I'm still a relative outsider to the series. In this title we see a Lara Croft, new to the more adventurous side of the Croft legacy. She gets thrust into this life against her will during a trip to find the lost kingdom of Yamatai. She finds this kingdom at the cost of the lives of some of her friends and the cost of her innocence. With each challenge Lara overcomes, we see her grow more and more into her father's shoes, really becoming a Croft, the Lara Croft that we have come to know over the years. The game's collectibles showing off more of her expertise in archaeology, giving informative comments on relics and the situation at hand through her journal entries. All of it comes together to make for an adventure through this seemingly haunted island, and an adventure through Lara's character. The slow moments adding more to her talents as a researcher, while the fast moments give us a window into her development as an explorer. Lara shows restraint at some things, yet follows through in order to survive, making difficult decisions in order to save what remains of her crew. Tomb Raider 2013 lives and breathes action-adventure, balancing the two genres in an excellent way. Now, what if we were to take all of this, but not do any of it, and it's also underwater? Subnautica is a survival game that takes place almost entirely underwater. Adventure survival, or just survival, is a subgenre that has seen a lot of attention in the last few years, Subnautica being one of the most unique of these games released during that time. The thing that makes it unique is that, well, like I said, it's underwater. Unlike the other open-world survival games on the market, Subnautica sought to change the normal setting that these games take place in, sending you not around an island or a post-apocalyptic Russia. It sends you down beneath the surface of an alien sea. The goal of Subnautica itself is to survive. Survive until a rescue ship arrives to save you. At least, that's what the plan is originally. This is your official spoiler warning for Subnautica, for those of you who care. So if you wish to remain unspoiled on this game that has been out for nearly a decade, then skip ahead to this timestamp. Your saviors on the Sunbeam cargo ship become shot down by a massive alien gun during their descent to the surface. The purpose of this gun is to keep the planet under quarantine. From what, you may ask? From an alien disease localized on the planet, a disease that you have contracted during your time here. From here, your goal is to get off the planet yourself and cure your disease. You do this by braving the deep. That is the big adventure in Subnautica, seeking the depths at any cost. Though you aren't alone on this planet, nor in the deep. There are several animals that live in this sea. Most are very small and passive, not seeking you out as a meal. But there are some that do, and some of those are, well, massive. Leviathans are the main beast you need to worry about in Subnautica, their haunting roars echoing through the ocean as you enter into deeper regions of the sea. These things are terrifying. There are many variants of the Leviathan, most of which being in the deepest parts of the sea, trapped in caves filled to the brim with lava and acid pools. There is one though that is friendly to you, even speaks to you. This Leviathan is your goal to reach. She will help to cure you of your disease, allowing you to leave the planet. This is the adventure of Subnautica, survival at any cost, challenging the deep waters of this unknown world and helping to cure it of its disease. In order to beat the game, you need to go deep. There are a lot of regions to the sea, but you don't really need to go to many of them in order to beat the game, just a small handful. Honestly, a lot of your time will be in the shallows where the game begins. The deepest part of the sea is in the out-of-bounds region known as the Crater Edge. It is also known as the Ecological Dead Zone, or simply the Void. This is the deepest region and is devoid of almost all life. There are no land features, no plants, and no animals. The only living things out there are a pack of adult ghost leviathans. The option to explore it is there, but the need is not. This leaves most of the adventure of Subnautica up to you. If you want to go to the dunes, even though you don't have to, you're more than welcome. If you want to find all of the Aurora's life pods, then you are more than welcome. If you want to stay on the planet forever and build the biggest base possible, then you are more than welcome. It's all up to you. That's what I like most about survival games. The adventure is what you make it. It is tailored in a specific way, yet leaves room for your own inputs. I have a lot to say about Subnautica, but I will choose to say it at another time. For now, I've got one last game to talk about. Or, well, game series. And I've brought in a professional to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Swagmaster, and he is here to talk about the Legend of Zelda series.
I like exploring, I really do. I really like summiting a mountain and seeing an expansive valley beneath me. I like delving into caves with nothing but a flashlight and some trail mix. I have mountains on every side of me, deserts and rocks only a couple hours away, and lakes north of me. The problem is that about half the year there's this weird white stuff that falls from the sky, and it makes any kind of exploration suck balls. It's cold and wet and miserable. Luckily for me, some guy in Japan had an idea almost 40 years ago. Miyamoto, who had already helped in the creation of the most iconic video game ever, wanted to do something special for a video game. Remembering the caves he explored as a child, he got to work. 2 years later, he and his team put out this game with a silly little elf boy who fights a giant pig monster guy. If you look at the game today, it's fine, I guess. But for its time, it was nothing short of a miracle. There are caves and mountains and lakes. There were monsters and dungeons and old women who sell you drugs. It no longer matters if it's snowing outside because you have an entire world to explore inside of your house. After the wild success on the NES, the developers made 3 more games. 2 of them were good, but now it's the 90s. There's suddenly another direction that you can move in. Welcome to the third dimension. This was a difficult problem for the dev team. How do you take the top-down dungeons of the Zelda series 3D? And even if they do figure that out, how do you make it run on the N64? After 2.5 years, they put out this masterpiece. I'm not here to tell you that Ocarina of Time is the greatest game of all time, but the fact that it's a debate at all tells you the quality of this game. Ocarina of Time took the Zelda series from a good one to the absolute icon that it is today. It was such a good game that the developers took the exact formula of Ocarina of Time and just copy pasted it into like 6 other games. And nobody complained until this one. Eventually the dev team, now led by AGA Enuma, decided to pivot again. They wanted to redefine what a Zelda game is, and while doing so, accidentally redefined the entire open world adventure genre altogether. I'm not here to tell you that Breath of the Wild is the greatest game of all time, but wait, I already used this bit. The team behind these games is fearless. They try new things even when the fan base tells them that it's a bad idea. This leads to mistakes, yes, but it also leads to innovations that no other team is capable of. There's a reason that there are so many games that borrow ideas from the Zelda series. There's a reason that there are so many YouTube videos accusing other games of copying the Zelda series. There's a reason that there are concerts, conventions, and apparently only a movie for this franchise. It's because Zelda sets the standard of what these games should look like, and it's up to the others to follow in their footsteps. Even if Zelda isn't your favorite adventure game series, there's a good chance your favorite would not exist if it weren't for Zelda.
Adventure games are some of the most exciting games out there. The experiences they provide are so incredibly unique and unlike those throughout other media. There are far more categories than what I've mentioned so far. To make a video on all of them would be foolish. I highly recommend researching these other categories yourself. Sometimes you poke through and find a niche genre or set of games that you may really end up enjoying. For me, that was a style of games that I found to be both wide in its encompassing of the media and niche in the games that use the style. This style being weird games.